Thank you, Acting President. And I'd like to speak in favour of this motion for a short and sharp inquiry to the very specific part of this omnibus bill, being the extension of the presumptive rights to mechanics and those that work in workshops. Now, I don't think any of us oppose the notion of workers having presumptive rights, and we want to protect all workers, and to a large extent this bill goes to so many of those protections and expanding those protections, as we've heard this evening. And I'd like to just take this quick opportunity to thank all of those people who have worked to protect us for so long. But the path to the presumptive legislation that we have now was a really long and arduous one. It took decades of firefighters fighting for this, collecting the evidence, presenting to numerous parliaments around not only this country but internationally. And firefighters, they watched their colleagues die of brain cancer, they watched their colleagues die of other forms of cancer, and they kept trying to fight for presumptive rights, and they were knocked back, and finally the evidence was enough, and they were able to prove that without doubt they deserved presumptive rights for a range of cancers. So this was a really difficult campaign, but the science won and the evidence won, and now we have a presumptive rights legislation. So I think it's reasonable to consider this quite sudden move to extend the firefighters' presumptive rights to mechanics and workshop personnel. And we're not asking for anything long, but we are asking for a short inquiry, as Dr Ratnam says, to look at the impact that may have on the existing presumptive rights. Because we know, and I look around this chamber, many of us spent many hours, days in this chamber debating presumptive rights and the right for firefighters to have that, because the evidence proved beyond reasonable doubt that they deserved it. So right now, I haven't seen any evidence, but that's not to say that we can't offer a scheme for other workers that do come across the same carcinogenic chemicals that our firefighters do. But I want to see an inquiry to ensure that this doesn't impact on the existing scheme, and to ensure that this is the most appropriate mechanism to protect those other workers who put themselves at risk, who do come into contact with asbestos, with other dangerous chemicals. And so I think this is a very reasonable thing to do. We, in this case, and considering how long it took us to get presumptive rights for firefighters, I don't think another few weeks to consider the impact of this bill on those existing rights is unreasonable, and I'd urge people to support this motion.